Hi, welcome back to The Vision Within. You can find us on our YouTube channel, The Vision Within YouTube channel, and our Facebook page, Rising Tides Global. And please subscribe to both and share. We'd love to hear from you as well. I'm Lisa.
I'm Loretta.
I'm Lori. And I'm Katrina.
And today is January 6, 2018. And it's very applicable, I think, for us to talk about letting go of old patterns.
Right.
And we're in the 11 year, 2018, and a 2 year. Mm-hmm. And if we didn't do it in one, we got to do it in two. But I think also the 11 year is a manifestation year too.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
we can close old doors and open up new doors. Mm-hmm. And we were talking a little bit before we got on about some of the astrological changes that are shifting as well, and getting us to shift with the old, letting go of the old patterns. So, Laurie, what are you? We were talking a little bit about Saturn.
Oh well, let's start with you.
Okay,
She's more of our numerology girl.
Okay, great.
Well, with the new moon of Capricorn, that ushered in a shift, which brought in the influence of Saturn. And Saturn is a planet with its rings that is about patterns and about just circles and patterns. And so it also is the planet of manifestation. And so when you combine all of that, what it kind of tells us is that we're entering into a time where if we are awakening, if we are connecting with our inner wisdom, with the opportunities of our soul, then we are going to be shown patterns that no longer serve us. We're going to be shown opportunities to move through energy that doesn't serve us anymore, and look at how in our life we can shift that. And once we plant those seeds for what we feel our next step is going to be, then the energy of what's happening right now in our 11 year and a 2 year will help us to manifest that in our lives. And so I think it's really kind of beautiful. And so we're going to be in this energy until December 20th of 2020. So this is a really strong manifesting 2 year period. Yeah.
We talked a little bit about how, synchronicities and nothing's ever random, and how, we stumbled on a show or a Breatharian thing or whatever. And I stumbled on a show on Gaia last night about deep space, and it was talking about Saturn. And I think they were talking, several years ago, they were noticing changes in the rings, and that there was an object in there, and one guy said when he saw it, it reminded him of a DVD or a CD, and how we create grooves, and the way that there was like an opening at the top and the bottom, and it almost looked like there was like a portal, and the energy was coming in and changing. They changed the record basically, and it impacted humanity. And I think especially in an 11 year, I think we're given the opportunity to put on our own record and regroove our CD or DVD. So you were saying about, you just jumped in with the cold, and that was how we got us all going with that pattern.
Yeah, we decided to do letting go of old patterns because I mentioned in the last segment that I'm normally pretty healthy, but I've been having a cold over the holidays, and you, Kat's really good at intuitive downloads here, and she said, Lisa, well, you go ahead and say what you said.
Well, we were talking about it, and Lisa was talking, about having a cold, and I'm really coming to understand that about half of what we perceive as illness is energetic imbalance within our body that allows a certain energy to come in. And a lot of times it'll allow us, if we, for example, I can remember times in my life where I was sort of on the stress wheel of my work life, and the only way I would allow myself a break is if I was sick. And so I didn't know that at the time, but I know that now. So I think there are certain energetic components. The other 50%, roughly, I feel like are times when we are shifting our awareness, coming to new understandings, and unfolding. When that happens and we are releasing old patterns, when we start releasing them energetically and then we release them physically, what I came to understand for you and the information that I received was that you really were not sick. There wasn't a virus that came into your body. There wasn't any of that. What happened was you were releasing from your body just bacteria that was dormant and that had been stored in cells in your body, and your body was healthy enough now to release it. And as we go over time and we change and we move toward different belief systems, different ways of being and nourishing our body, some of those things happen naturally. And sometimes you'll notice too, when I was doing a lot of health coaching, I would notice that when people would frequently take on healthier habits, they'd get to about the point where their immune system would get to probably between 40 and 45% strength and efficiency, and they would come down with something. Because when your immune system is built up to a certain point and you're nourishing yourself in ways that support your body, then your body will say, okay, great, now we can release the yuck. Because it won't be reabsorbed into our system. We're strong enough, our systems of elimination are strong enough to let it go.
Yeah.
And so often when we take on healthy habits in that way, physically our bodies will start releasing. And that was what was happening with you with this event. And what I also heard is that you were, in releasing that, you were also releasing old emotion that no longer served you. So frequently...
Like how old?
30 plus years.
Wow.
And those of you who are going to ask, how did you arrive at that? I arrived at that through muscle testing. So, because Lisa asked the question, so I was happy.
Chills.
I know I just got them as well.
Yeah.
So, I was happy to be able to share that with you. And I think that those are things that happen. And I feel like whenever something happens in our body physically, it's a reflection, again, of our energy and our beliefs. Because how frequently, when you come to a new understanding, do you get a challenge around that same opportunity and you get the chance to work through it? So I think it's very much the same.
And that really rang true to me, Kat, as I said before the camera started, because I've been lately wondering the same thing. I kept hearing this is releasing a bunch of old stuff. I didn't know how to eloquently put it from a healthcare perspective like you did, but I just felt like it was releasing old stuff that was finally coming up to come out.
Better out than in, girl. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, out than in. So how, how have you? What's your understanding, Loretta, of kind of releasing new patterns or releasing old?
Releasing old patterns.
Maybe it is releasing new patterns.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
I think that for myself, so for the last 3 weeks, and I've been off work for the last 3 weeks, right? And so I had all of these grand visions of all these things I was going to do. But really what's happened instead is that I've almost really sought out solitude, which is really kind of strange, right? But the reason is because, I have to sit in this quiet, at least that's what, Spirit's telling me. I have to sit in this quiet so I can actually hear and feel everything that I need to hear and feel. And I am getting the very strong messages that I need to, take a look at my belief system. And not really, I don't know, I think it's the things that we hold on to that are so comfortable, right? Or that we have been doing for 30 plus years or whatever. Because in order for us to move on to the next level, and in order for us to actually fulfill what our purpose is, at least for myself, there's certain changes that I need to make, right? Now, we talked about it briefly last segment, going more holistic from an eating perspective. But I'm also, too, kind of being forced to look at what my next step is, right, from a life perspective. I know when everybody was, gearing toward the end of the year, they're putting together their goals and, their list of how things are going to change for them for next year. And I've actually had been sitting over the end of the year kind of like in this murky pool or this murky wash, waiting, and just letting things get clear and manifest. So it's almost more of like an instinctual manifestation or instinctual change instead of an actual, writing down my goals and here's what I'm going to accomplish. I'm just listening to what I'm supposed to be doing. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that because it is a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
And I feel like the truest messages for me are what I hear from within, and I know everything's a message. So if you guys say something, I know that's a message that I scripted.
Yeah.
Right.
However, I still feel there's some discernment as to what I see externally or hear externally. But I'm less discerning. I really feel comfortable with
Agreed.
the internal messages.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think when we look at releasing patterns that no longer serve us, I think it's prudent to remember and practice unconditional love for ourselves as well. Because frequently when we're releasing things that no longer serve us, habits or beliefs or whatever it may be that we feel like are no longer aligned with us, that we know we want to kind of move through, we are conditioned as humans to move away from fear and pain. So when you face something that you've created for yourself in the form of an addiction, at least for myself, there's some kind of emotional attachment to that or seed that I've planted somewhere down the line that is, I'm finding an avoidance of fear or pain by seeking. And so for me, I only say that because, when we take on these new things, just a reminder to have love for ourselves as we're facing some of those, because some pretty strong emotions can come up and be released or be faced or that kind of thing. And I know for me, some of the things that I've been asking for is to understand what the seed level is of the things that I'd like to let go of, because I feel for me, if I can go back to that, if I can go within and I can go back to that I can recreate it or mend it. And to mend it is to say it was broken, and I don't think it was broken. I think it was me creating some way of dealing with it that helped me move away from fear or pain in the moment. So how do I go back to that and recreate it in the moment to allow healing to happen and to allow me to have love and understanding for how I coped, and then let it go.
So you go back, I'm sorry, but you go back to the seed, not sea level, not seed level. You go back to the seed and then regrow it.
Correct.
To better serve you.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, Loretta.
No, it's okay. I was also going to add, when you were talking too, I think it's, and this is true for myself as well, it's also a matter of discipline. The question that I keep hearing in my, in my head is, how bad do you want it?
Yes.
It's there for
yes.
you, but how bad do you want it? And are you willing to do what it takes?
Right.
And just for a simplistic example, if you're trying to eat healthier, and you really have all this organic stuff and whatever, but when you've got the grandkids over for the night and you're making macaroni and cheese and it's sitting there, are you going to take one bite? You're going to take 5 bites. So, but really, and that's such a simplistic example. But I mean, it's really how bad do you want it? If you really want to go to the next level, how disciplined are you going to be to do what you know is supposed to be right for you to achieve that level?
And I know just on an energetic level, I know when my son was here, he was telling me about his friend who is at Purdue University, and he works on some brain blends, and they are looking at plants and what systems plants use to create that burst of energy when a neuron fires and it shoots it somewhere else. And the same energy is required to get us up out of an old pattern to a new one. So if we're in the rut of a record that's been grooved, just like your car's in a ditch, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to get yourself out. And so when those patterns come back around, we see it, we observe it, we choose how are we going to react this time with it. But there's going to be an energy expenditure, and it's going to be big. And if our thoughts or maybe our food in that day, or we're not in the right frame of mind to create the nourishment to have that ATP boost to get us up there, it's going to dig into old stuff to use that energy to boost us. Because I know that I knew the moment I started not feeling well was at a time where there was an old pattern that came back around, and I was standing back saying, I'm not going to engage in this old way. I'm going to do this one. And even though I trusted myself to stand up and be in a meeting with someone from my past that I knew would be challenging. I trusted myself to stand strong. I was feeling the energy drain. And so that energy drain was pulled from old cellular memory, and it pulled it out.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Kind of interesting.
I love your analogy with the record player and the groove and getting stuck in the groove. I love that.
It takes a lot of energy to get us out.
Yeah, and it is like, there is really no beginning and end. So everything is around and around and around again.
That's why infinity is a symbol that's completely attached into two circular patterns.
And if we don't get it right, we just wait till that pattern comes back again, and then we can.
Well, and it's our, it is the energy of our thoughts. Where our thoughts go, energy will follow, and that's why when you look at people that do these amazing, like Tony Robbins, they do these amazing empowerment programs. Right. You're going to put people somewhere up at a pole, and they've got to achieve these great things, and it's the same as if you've got this busy street, and your car is over there, how motivated are you going to be to cross the road? Or if you put a plank in between two buildings, how motivated are you going to be to cross the plank? Well, most people aren't going to very motivated in the beginning. You put your child on top of the building, now you're motivated. You set the building on fire, there's not even a thought of anything that's down below.
And and having said that, if your child is in danger of a fire, where are we? Right. We are in the now, right?
Right. Totally present.
Yes, totally present. And I feel like letting go of old patterns requires us to be in the now.
Correct.
And one of the things that I think could be talked about in a different way is, I love the Tony Robbins and all the people that believe in this manifestation and focusing our attention, and I have, and I even have imagine, visualize, and create.
Sure.
However, I feel the key is to let go of the attachment to the imagination and visualization, and allow the creation to happen if it does, and it may happen in another way.
Right.
That's true.
And so that keeps us in the now rather than trying to figure it out and worrying about the future.
Right.
Because to me, it's like you're just on like a hamster on a wheel, just going around and around, and you can't get to where you want to go.
I subscribe, I understand what you're saying, and I think and feel that it's, that it's accurate, it's ringing true for me. The one thing that I subscribe to is that, I don't know that it has to be hard or challenging, or how bad do you want it.
Yeah.
Usually when I hear that for myself, that tends to be about ego going, it's going to be really hard, it's going to be really hard, it's going to be really, you know what I mean? You got to work really hard, you got to cross the plank. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to create a Tarzan swing pole. I'm going to make it fun to get to the other side for my dog. I don't have children, I have a dog, but I'd cross the plank in the burning building to go get my dog.
Yeah.
Well, and that exactly to the point about being in the now and being present. I had a great conversation with a physician at your open house.
Oh, yeah.
Who was saying that, he has this group of patients and they should be well and they're not.
Oh.
And I just read a phenomenal article in Time Magazine's mindfulness issue about an OBGYN who did everything healthy and found precancerous cells. And when she started asking her clients open-ended questions, what would it look like if you were happy, or what might have you feeling healthy? Mm-hmm. And I was telling him that that when I would do NLP with people and they would say, there's a block here or something, well, what does it look like? It's a wall with cinder blocks. Okay, well, can you go around it? No, it's really wide. Can you get over it? No, it's really tall. Mm-hmm. What would it take? It'd take a jackhammer. All right, well, go get one. So they get one, and people can come up with their own fun, creative ways to get through things, when we really let our imagination go. And then, when we've done that, and then just say, okay, well, let's, wherever that went, yay, and then you move on. Like you said, you let go of it.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, happened, and
So I love you, and I would encourage you to take a look at whatever's telling you that it's going to be tough.
Nothing is telling me that's going to be tough.
Oh, okay.
There's a difference between how bad you want it. Are you willing to release something?
Yes.
Oh, gotcha.
Versus,
Okay.
Yeah, so
right.
no.
Stay
yeah.
focused.
So, girl,
Stay
let it be as easeful and graceful as it can be.
Yeah, yeah. Totally.
Good.
But I think we're always, especially, I just feel like when we come in, and I want to tell people, because I know that so many people strive for purpose and then they get sad or depressed. I'm not serving my purpose. Just by being here and breathing, you're serving your purpose.
Right.
And we are like, seriously, the balls it takes,
Yeah.
to be a human being at this time
Right.
of immense change is incredibly brave.
Yeah.
You're incredibly brave just existing.
Right.
Just existing. For whatever reason, I feel like we signed up for something.
Yeah.
For something a little more. And it's just like if you're going through any kind of leadership program, you've got to hone certain skill sets.
Sure.
And it says, okay, hey, you've been talking to me about this,
Yeah.
Are you really serious? Because Reveille was at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And it's 8 a.m. and you're
Right.
still asleep.
Right.
Well, I think the how bad do I want it is very applicable. What I'm saying that people could talk about more is that it's applicable in the now.
Yes.
So like your child is getting ready to get burned.
Right.
How bad do you want to save them?
Right.
It's
Oh,
in
got
the
it.
now. How badly do you want to stay on a vegan diet?
Yeah,
In the now.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't worry about tomorrow. Like, like a lot of people worry about, I can't do this rest of my life. And so they just start eating today.
They're so
badly.
far down the road.
Right,
they
they're like,
forgot
I
about
can't
today.
even think about it. So I think that how badly do I want it or how badly I don't want it is in the now.
Yeah.
In
Right.
this moment.
In this
you don't have to
moment.
think beyond, because that can be
You don't even
overwhelming.
think beyond.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I can tell you for me, when I had the realization about the emotional aspect when I was sick, because like I said before, I was a vegan for 2 years, and then I was diagnosed with cancer. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? And didn't know until years later when I had my business and was doing some health coaching for some clients, and I had breast cancer and on my left side, and came to the understanding that I created my own illness. And when I realized how closely my emotions impacted my health and my energy was when I had a lady that came to me, and she had breast cancer, and she had been at stage 2 breast cancer for years, and she really was ready to move past it. So she said. And so I worked with her and 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 worked with her, and we, everything that we could control, I shouldn't say we, everything she could control, everything I recommended, she did. She was meditating, she was doing all of these things, and finally I just had this moment after about 9 months, and I said, come clean with me, tell me what it really is, because there's something, what I'm understanding is that you've done everything you could possibly do. You've gone within, you have, you have the healthiest diet of any person I ever met. You have a lot of control around, pushing through discomfort of exercise and all kinds of things. So tell me what's really at the heart of this. Like, what would happen if you were well? If you were completely well, what would happen?
Right.
And she burst into tears and said, my husband would leave me.
So she very badly wanted to stay ill in the moment.
So she thought
Unknowingly.
he would not leave her
Right.
while
Yeah.
she was sick.
Yeah.
Right. And so you went to the seed.
And so when I saw that, we talked through that a little bit, and I had a lot of compassion for her, and fortunately or unfortunately, whatever her path is, she stopped coming to me, and that's okay. For me, I had this huge release of sadness because I'd been through a divorce, a couple years prior to being diagnosed, and with my own illness, and I had this flood of understanding that I had created that, and emotionally and energetically, because I was still heartbroken. Because I thought when I married him that my life would be very different. I saw our life together very differently. And, the lessons, without an awareness or understanding of what that most challenging part in my life was going to bring to me. And so just releasing some of that was huge.
Well, I think too, anymore, I'm not sure how I create all this. Like I always say, you all may be here or not, it doesn't matter. And what I've been told in my downloads is not to be concerned about or even beat myself up for creating a sore throat or cancer or whatever it is that comes down my path, but to accept, appreciate, and approve of it in the moment. And then I raise the frequency, and then my story somehow shifts, but I don't even know how it shifts, and I don't even script the new story. So I think what is important for me anyway, when releasing old patterns, is to accept, appreciate, and approve of the current situation. And that somehow catapults me into a higher frequency where I don't beat myself up for creating what looked like a bad scene. And I just say, I'm not sure how I did this, or if I did it, or whatever, but as I'm perceiving it, I feel like I'm perceiving a distortion, where I can accept, appreciate, and approve of the distortion, and then the distortion lessens. It disintegrates a little bit, and the next scene is lighter, with less distortion.
That's a really good point.
So letting go of old patterns is really letting go of distortions, in my view. Because all that's really here is love. And the Garden of Eden, we just can't see it because we're perceiving distortions.
Sure.
I remember, Wayne Dyer always talking about how, don't wage war on things, that just love everything. And it really is very, very true, and we have to watch our words. I mean, Mark and I have been a lot more thoughtful about that. Because even when we say, I've been fighting this, well, we're resisting it. That's why it's persisting.
Exactly. What we resist persists.
Right. So it's just like, I'm so thankful that whatever is leaving my body is leaving it,
So if we want to let go of an old chaotic pattern, then instead of fighting it, which will amplify it, we can love it, and that will dissolve
nourish it.
Yeah, that will bring order to the chaos.
Drink water, take more baths, burn candles, I mean, just really, thank you so much for telling me I needed more nourishment. And that's really, we're probably really needing it.
And loving ourselves. I mean, if I decide right now I'm really craving a big fat turkey, I'm just... I'm not going to beat myself up. I mean, I'm not, but, if I were, I accept, appreciate, and approve of the craving in the now.
Well, and science has proven, too, that if you're craving one thing and you don't eat it, you eat 10 times more calories with other things to fill it. Just go for what you want. Call it a day.
So I'm thinking we're probably close to our little... end of our 20 minutes or so.
All right. Well, we've covered some really interesting topics. And we talked about the energy that it takes to release old patterns and how that comes up for each of us. And I think, what for me rang true and is really having an impact for me is just a reminder from all of you to be really kind to ourselves when we are in the process of stepping into some new patterns and releasing old patterns, and that we allow ourselves to feel some discomfort on the journey, that we appreciate the, kind of knocks from the universe and our guides and our angels that say, hey, now's the time. And the biggest part for me really today was about being in the now, because the times when I resist or create friction for myself are the times when I am not present, the times when I am thinking 3 steps into the future or beating myself up for 5 minutes ago. Do you know what I mean? And I think the unconditional love that we have to have for ourselves on this journey is critical to releasing the old patterns.
Very well stated.
Beautiful message. Well, I'm Katrina.
I'm Lori.
I'm Loretta.
And I'm Lisa. And please visit us on the Vision Within YouTube channel and share and subscribe, and the Rising Tides Global Facebook page, where you can find all of our videos. Till next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.